Over the past few years, we've covered a lot of terrible games here at Team TripleJump, and although you guys seem to have just as much fun with bad titles as we do,
look at his little arms!
It turns out you're also mighty keen on hearing about decent games as well. 2001 had its ups and downs, but highlights included Daniel Radcliffe's debut as Harry Potter, Christopher Walken's appearance in Fatboy Slim's Weapon of Choice music video, and of course the launch of both the Xbox and the GameCube. There were some mighty fine games to play on those consoles as well, so for today's list, we're here to look at some. We'll be covering other consoles as well, don't worry. The rules for our best games lists are much the same as for our worst games lists, but just in case anyone's in any sort of doubt, allow me to demystify things for you. We scour both game rankings and Metacritic to find the games with the very best critical reception from the year in question. They must have received at least 7 professional reviews, and where the two sites differ in opinion, we'll go with whichever score is highest. There you go, easy as that. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best games of 2001. Number 10, Paper Mario, N64, 93%. We're kicking off our list with the first of 2 Mario titles to make the top 10 best of 2001. Paper Mario was first released in Japan in August 2000, but it didn't make its way to the rest of the world until the following year, which is really quite unfair on us, to be honest. For his first adventure since Super Mario 64, everyone's favourite little Italian plumber and chums got something of a crafty makeover, switching out their 3D forms for slightly more papery ones. Naturally, being made of cardstock didn't stop Bowser from getting up to his usual dastardly schemes, and so it fell to Mario once again to put a stop to his madcap plans. Critics had very few bad things to say about Paper Mario, commending the game for its blend of RPG elements and platforming, its charming music and sound, its sense of nostalgia, and of course, its art style, which presented familiar characters in a new and exciting way. Perhaps the only criticism that some players had was that Paper Mario was a little on the easy side and didn't present much of a challenge to more seasoned gamers. Not every game has to be Dark Souls though, and the vast majority of folks thoroughly enjoyed everything that Paper Mario had to offer. Number 9, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Game Boy Advance, 93%. Over the years, there have been many titles that have attempted to imitate Mario Kart, but none has succeeded in overtaking the series, no pun intended, as the world's greatest kart racer, and the franchise is showing no signs of slowing down, that pun was intended, anytime soon. By the turn of the millennium, Mario had already had 2 kart-related outings, both of which were well received by critics, and he and his buddies returned in 2001 with Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance. It retained much of the spirit of its predecessors. Players chose a game mode from one of several, picked a character and a course, and then put the pedal to the metal to try and outrun their opponents. The series' famous power-ups also made a return, and players could use the Game Link cable to race against their friends. When it came to Mario Kart Super Circuit's critical evaluation, it really could do no wrong. Reviewers praised the game's graphics, sound, multiplayer capabilities, and the fact that it was so gosh darned addictive. It brought everything to the table that Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 did, only this time the fun was portable, meaning players could send those blue shells flying from anywhere in the world. Number 8, Madden NFL 2002, PS2, 94%. Oh yeah, here we go sports time. I shouldn't do that. If you're a fan of American football, then you'll know just how violent the sport can get, and that might put you off having a go yourself. Fortunately, the folks over at EA had pain-hating gamers covered in 2001 with the release of Madden NFL 2002, a title that allowed fans to play the sport without risking severe injury. Of course, this wasn't the first dose of Madden NFL players had gotten to enjoy, but it was, according to Metacritic at least, the best Madden NFL title of all time. Well, at least until Madden NFL 2003 came along, but that's a topic for another best of year list. It was the best one so far, that's what I'm saying. In terms of gameplay, Madden NFL 2002 was much like those that came before. Players took control of their favorite American football stars and attempted to win games by scoring touchdowns. There is obviously more to it than that, but the rules of American football are quite complicated from where we're sitting, and our writer is already a bit confused and slightly concerned about what a tight end and wide receiver are. Critics were quick to praise the game for its updated gameplay mechanics, improved AI, and up-to-date graphics, concluding that Madden NFL 2002 was about as close to perfection as an American football game could get. In 2001, let's keep in mind. Number 7. Devil May Cry, PS2, 94%. It's time to look at a brand new IP now, boys, girls, and others, so gather round so Uncle Peter can tell you all about Devil May Cry, a game that started out life as Resident Evil 4. Indeed, when development began, the team at Capcom were attempting to craft the follow-up to 1999's Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. But when the game was shaping up to be too cool and hip to be a Resi game, Shinji Mikami convinced the devs to make this a new IP instead, and thus Devil May Cry was born. The game itself is loosely based on the Dante Alighieri poem The Divine Comedy, and tells the story of a young man, also named Dante, as he embarks on a quest to avenge the deaths of his mother and brother. Not only did Devil May Cry sell like hotcakes, it also received universal critical acclaim. Players particularly enjoyed its camera control, gothic ambience, and action-packed gameplay, with one reviewer even claiming that DMC made Resident Evil look like a slow zombie. There was some criticism leveled at the title's difficulty, with some feeling like parts of the game were made overly hard in order to bloat the runtime, but those people probably just needed to get good. Am I right? I think I'm right. Number 6. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 Game Boy Advance, 95%. Hang on a minute, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, weren't you in our Best Games of 2000 list? What's that? Oh, you're the Game Boy Advanced edition and therefore different enough from the Dreamcast and PlayStation versions to warrant inclusion on this list? Well, alright then. Indeed, owing to the Game Boy Advance's limited processing capabilities, in comparison to home consoles at least, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 had to undergo a bit of a makeover, or perhaps make under, ahead of its June 2001 handheld release. However, change isn't always a bad thing, as the game proved, and although it was a different way to experience grinding, ollieing, and half-piping, players and critics agreed it was still a great time. Handheld players were treated to all of the same levels and game modes as owners of the home console editions, excluding the level editor, skater customizer, and multiplayer, and experienced the game from an isometric perspective. Critics were very kind to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for the Game Boy Advance, with some going as far as to say it was the best portable skateboarding game ever made. Sure, it lacked some of the features of its home console brethren, but players simply didn't care because they were having too much fun, and having that fun on the go. Nice. Number 5. Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec, PS2, 95%. If you like fast cars that go vroom vroom, but your bank balance is looking more Reliant Robin than Lamborghini, then you might just turn to video games to get your speed fix. The good news is there have been tons of great racing games released over the years, and if you were around in 2001, it's likely Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec would have been amongst your faves. As is the case with most racing titles, your aim in Gran Turismo 3 is to jump into one of the many cars on offer and zoom around various courses in pursuit of that coveted top spot. Players were treated to a whopping 19 different tracks, several different gameplay modes, which included leagues and endurance events, and more cars than they could shake a gear stick at. Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec had it all. It was challenging but fair, came with huge amounts of content, and on a technical level, the devs perfectly executed everything from the graphics and sound to the controls and physics. Was there much in the way of innovation? Well, not really, but when all your players want is to race cars as fast as they can, then there's absolutely no shame in just, nailing the basics. Number 4. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, PS2, 96%. I'm quoting our writer now when she says, if you take a look back through the works of Hideo Kojima, it seems like the man is unable to create a bad game all you Death Stranding haters can pipe down. better pipe down then. And 2001's Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty is no exception to that rule that she just made up. Like the Metal Gears that came before it, Sons of Liberty is of the stealth variety, and players can join rookie agent Raiden as he attempts to prevent the eponymous terrorist group from causing cataclysmic environmental disaster. Although some fans were disappointed the game focused on Raiden rather than Solid Snake, the game received universal critical acclaim, won a whole bunch of awards, and is the highest rated PS2 exclusive on Metacritic. Critics were particularly impressed by the stealth mechanics, which have been improved since the previous title, its visual presentation, and Hideo Kojima's writing, which explored a number of social themes. Some critics even dubbed the game a killer app for the PS2, as it was one of the best reasons to rush out and buy the console. You might say that MGS2 was a solid entry into the franchise. That joke works because the game we're talking about is called Metal Gear Solid 2, and I said it was a solid entry into the franchise. Do you get the joke now? Excellent. Well done. Let's move on. Number 3. Halo Combat Evolved. Xbox, 97%. By the time that Microsoft got themselves into the console market, there was already a lot of stiff competition out there. Sony had launched the mighty powerful PS2 in 2000, and the Nintendo 64 was still going strong, even by the turn of the millennium. So the Xbox was really going to have to bring out the big guns if it had any hopes of measuring up. Well, bring out the big guns it did, with launch title Halo Combat Evolved, a game that's considered by many to be not only one of the best first-person shooters ever made, but one of the best video games ever made, full stop. Set in the 26th century, Halo Combat Evolved puts players into the well-armoured shoes of Master Chief, a cybernetically enhanced super soldier who's on a mission to uncover the mysteries of the ring world Halo. Critics had nothing but praise for Halo, calling it, quote, the most important launch game for any console ever. Both its single-player and multiplayer modes were brilliantly executed, the AI was on point, and the exciting gameplay and stunning soundtrack had players hooked from beginning to end. In short, Halo Combat Evolved was the only reason anyone needed to buy an Xbox, and by that measure, it achieved everything it set out to do. Number 2. Grand Theft Auto 3, PS2, 97%. In some respects, it's nice to stick in your comfort zone, but with that said, if you always do the same thing, you'll never know what might have been, and you might just miss out on doing something truly special. Luckily, the folks over at Rockstar have never been ones to play it safe, as they proved when they released Grand Theft Auto 3 in 2001. If you were to compare it to its predecessor, you'd be hard-pressed to tell they had anything to do with one another, but it was arguably the decision to bring GTA into the third dimension that helped it stand out from the crowd. GTA 3 takes place in Liberty City, a fictionalized version of New York, and follows Claude Speed, who, after being betrayed by his girlfriend during a robbery, sets out on a quest for revenge that leads him down a very dark path. Critics were floored by the game and commended its visuals, sound, gameplay, and in particular, GTA 3's open world, which was impeccably designed and gave players a huge sense of freedom. The shift from top-down to 3D completely changed the look and feel of the series, which could have turned off fans, but fortunately, the developers took the risk, and it seriously paid off, and is still literally paying dividends to this very day. And number 1, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, PS2, 97%. Well, if it isn't Tony Hawk back again with yet another fantastic video game. He managed to top our best games of 2000 list, and it turns out he's not yet had enough of being the best. Indeed, not content with already having produced 2 brilliant skating-themed titles, the Birdman returned in 2001 with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. As with previous Pro Skaters, the idea of the game was to skate around various different courses, collecting things and accruing points by successfully performing tricks. Things start out simple in the game, but quickly get more difficult as later courses demand more and more from the player, so you'll need to bring your A game if you've any hopes of living up to Tony's high standards. Critics lauded the game for its graphics, its expansive and detailed level design, and its soundtrack, which included songs from the likes of the Ramones, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Motorhead. Pro Skater 3 took everything that its predecessors did well and built upon it to bring players a new but familiar experience that had them booting up the game time and time again. So congratulations on the 2-year streak, Tony Hawk. It's clearly going to take something really special to steal your well-deserved crown.